Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where you are invited for lighthearted conversations about things that matter as you seek to live your most meaningful, beautiful, and joyful life. I'm your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the House of Joy. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. We are so excited today to have some of our LMS certified coaches who are going to share a bit of their story, of their experience of getting certified through our program. I am so honored to have them here, so honored to know them, to know the work that they're doing in the world, and just so proud of them. So I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves. And ladies, if you wouldn't mind to tell us, first of all, how long you were in LMS before you got certified, and a little bit about your experience in certification. And then we'll catch up in a little bit as to like what you're doing now. So Miss Sally, we'll start with you. Can you introduce yourself, Sally? Tell everybody a little bit about you and your experience in both LMS and in certification.
Very good. Well, I'm Sally Phillips. I live in Central Texas. I had been retired briefly when I came into the program. I just counted real quick. I was in LMS for 9 months before I started certification, and I have been a coach for 9 months.
Oh, awesome. That is so cool. And then tell me about, I know we said we'd do this in a second, but when did you finish coach certification?
I graduated in June of last year.
Of last year.
Not quite a year.
Okay, perfect. And then we have Carrie Irvin. Hi, Carrie. Tell us a little bit about you and your experience in both LMS and certification.
Yeah, so I'm a teacher, and then I was a counselor, and I came across LMS from my friend Amanda. And so I joined LMS, and I was in it about a year and a half. And when I got into the certification part of it. And so, yeah, I was so excited to do it. I had no idea going into LMS that I would, eventually become a certified coach. But
yes,
yeah, and it's been incredible. So I did that. I started coaching before I started the certification, because it was like August of that year is when the certification classes started. And I started coaching. I just felt this tug in my heart. God kind of said, this is what I need you to do. Turn in my resignation. Made no sense, but started coaching April of 2022, got the certification starting that August. And so I've been coaching women, and I've just started my first group coaching program, and it's been incredible. It's been an amazing ride. And
it's crazy. I forgot about that, Carrie, that you actually gave up your job that you had before. That's insane. So cool.
Yeah. And that's what I always say. People have told me, you know what, you're not going to be 5 years from, ago, if you're going to no longer be in education, you're going to be a life coach. Because I honestly didn't know what a life coach was at first. I thought it was something all celebrities had. And then then Amanda like shows me, and she's like, no, and she's a Christian life coach, which meant something to me. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And it was like you always say, it was like you were reading my mind. Like I just signed on for one of your little 2-day things. And like before day 1 was done, I was like, where do I sign up? Where's it set? And then, so
that's
been
so amazing. I can't wait to hear more of your story. And Misty, welcome. Will you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story? I love that you're all three a little bit different, like how you came to it, when you started coaching, and all of that. So tell us a little bit about you.
So my name is Misty, and I was coaching probably for a year and a half, and without a certification, and I was interested in getting a certification. I had done some research, and I hadn't really found the one I wanted yet. And then I heard you on a podcast guesting on someone else's show, and they were talking about life mentoring schools. So now I'm Googling it and like, oh, there's life mentoring school. And then I saw that there was going to be a life coaching certification program, but like I had to be in the program. So I joined right away. It was like within 2 days, I joined the program. And then I joined for your certification. And it was just like the perfect timing. So I was like, this is what I've been looking for. I wanted something that had the Christian base, that like I felt was coming from a really authentic person, that there wasn't like all these walls between you and us. So I was in it right away. I was so excited to get certified.
So cool. And total now you've been doing this for 3 years, coaching for 3 years, you said?
Yeah. Mhm.
So awesome. I I love how varied your stories are. I'm curious. Um, I think we'll start with Misty with this one because your story is really fascinating to me in that you started coaching before you got certified. And I did too, but I was like Carrie. I was kind of like gonna start certification. I like knew when I was starting and I'm like, let's go ahead and get some clients and help some people while we're doing it. I'm so curious for you how you came into it. And then after you were doing well, practicing without a certification, why you decided to join us.
Yeah, so I was a labor doula for 13 years. And so what I really liked about that job is I was with couples, basically sitting across from them at their kitchen tables, coaching them, right? We talked about like their relationship, their mother-in-law issues, like how they were going to bring another baby into the family. And so I really enjoyed helping them. I was coaching them. And at a certain point, I realized I was really fatigued from going to all the births. And I was like, how can I keep doing this without going to the births? And so that's how it was born. I was like, well, I think that's life coaching and I'm just going to do it. So like it was just like that's just what I'm doing. I just decided. And then after I had been doing it for a while, I was like I kind of miss the community that people seem to get when they get certified. You know, people go
Okay.
to different schools and then they're part of a community, they have colleagues, and I didn't have that. And I think that coaching can be a really lonely career if you don't have a pack of like what do you do during
Yes.
this, or like how do you hold this, or like how do you navigate that. And so I knew that if I got in a certification program, especially one that held the same beliefs as me, I would get the community. So that's why I did that.
Oh man, I love that. It's interesting because that really wasn't a draw for me. And interesting, the school where I trained didn't really have much of a community like we have been able, I think, to foster a little bit more in our program. So I'm curious for you what that has been like having a community.
Well, I like it because I don't business mentoring school is just like it's a place where people go and we can learn more about running the business, but also hear like what are the other challenges that people are coming up against? How are they solving them? And just make it feel like we're all just kind of normal in the struggles that we're having.
Yes. And you're exactly right. Life coaching can feel like you're out on an island somewhere. Nobody really understands what you do, really, when you tell them that that's your job. They're like, that sounds fancy or weird or something, right? And yeah, it helps to have people who kind of understand your life and understand your language. And when you mention business mentoring school, for those listening who may not know, when you get certified through us, you get our business program for free as part of, your training. It's a lifetime program where we teach you how to market and sell and make offers and then that kind of thing. And so I think that has been super helpful for our people who do come out of it wanting to build a business. Not everybody does want to build a business, but I think that part of it has been helpful. And the ongoing calls that we have both in, for our certified coaches and for those in business mentoring school, I think are super helpful. Um, and for you, how did getting certified change your coaching, Misty? Because you are probably the only one who, I mean, you might have coached longer than most people I know who started coaching before they got certified. How do you feel like the training that you got enhanced your practice, changed your practice in any way?
Yeah, I would say that like sometimes things seemed like there was an issue there. It seemed kind of murky, but through coaching, like what you taught us, it's like, oh, like that thing that seemed kind of like unclear as I was coaching it, like that's people pleasing. And here's exactly what's going on. So it's like gave words to something that I was maybe already coaching on, but like I didn't have like maybe the educational, like, here's exactly what's going on. Here's how it's worded. Here's how I can maybe
Oh,
flesh it out for them better. So I think just like,
yes.
and you gave us, like the handbook and it's like, here's like all the different topics. And so I think it like solidified different chunks in my mind better.
Oh, I like that. So, so good. Did it change at all your confidence, or do you feel like you were a pretty confident coach already?
I think like I was a confident coach already, but I think it helped me become more well-rounded.
Okay. Sometimes I think too with training, and I know you were telling us before we started recording, you've actually gone on to get an advanced certification in trauma. And I am so in awe of that. Sometimes I think, here's what I find anyways, the more training I get, the more humble I get, because I realize there's still so much that I don't know, but I think it gives us a great way. Like, I know that I can help my clients, and I know that my presence as a coach is very therapeutic to them. But I love the posture of just being willing to be a learner. And I love that you ended up going to get an advanced certification. I think that is so fantastic. I'm sure it's been very enriching to your life. Do you feel that way though? Like the more you get trained, you're like, oh, here's some more things that I can learn about.
I think if anything, it makes me like a more gentle coach. Like I really don't have
Yes.
all the answers, and there's so many layers to people that it just creates more of a sensitivity. Because like before I did the trauma recovery
Yes.
coaching, like I always like when there's something there, but like after like really learning about trauma, we all carry trauma. And to like be willing to be patient and slowly dig and extract it out and not be in a hurry and like
Yeah.
bring that to like, because like I really believe like once trauma is released, like people are set free. And so just
Yes.
like having more understanding of that now helps. But I would say like just like what you learn even in basic training is enough to
Yeah.
help people forever and ever too.
For sure. And I think that you're exactly right, though. I love how you put that. It makes you more sensitive. I think it has made me more tender the more that I've learned. And we do teach in our certification program that we're not here to give people advice or tell them what they should do with their life, but really here to help them access their own wisdom. And the more I learn as a coach and the more I practice coaching and just the more training I get for myself, it just solidifies that. Like they have their own wisdom, and can we see them as their highest self and help them find their wisdom? So I really love that. Carrie, you also, though, you're like me, you started coaching people before you got certified. You knew you were going to get certified. So tell us a little bit about your journey there. And how
Yeah.
in the world did you decide to quit your job? That's so brave.
Oh, it was something I couldn't deny. That's all I can say. I was watching one of your coaching sessions. I think it was like Made for More. And I had been praying. I was like, God, I love education. I love working with kids, but I want to be present with my family more. I was doing all the things that LMS was teaching. And honestly, it was like I'd seen you coach. I don't know how many times. And it was like one day he just kind of like lifted a veil and was like, this. And it just was a fire within that I can't explain. I was like, and I just knew. And I went to my husband. I was like, so got something to talk to you about, and with his blessing and support, we did it. And yeah, so I stepped out of education. It made no sense because, like I said, my principal was great. It wasn't like I was somewhere I felt like I had to leave. Um,
Why do you think your husband was so supportive? I'm curious.
I think it was because probably he just saw something in me when I came to him, when he knew like it made no sense. I mean, it's not like we had a bunch of backup money to be like, well, in case it doesn't. It was just he just knew. I was like, this is, I can't deny what's on my heart, and this is bigger than me, And so I had no idea where it was going to go. I had no idea if it was, but I thought it's worth a shot, and I'm ready to try this. And so, yeah, it turned in my resignation. My principal tried to talk me out of it. She was so sweet, but she got it. And so, but she was a part of it too. She was a part of my journey too. And so yeah, I stepped out and I decided, okay, I'm going to start coaching. I was so ready for it. And I kind of did a little beta program just to get my feet wet, fell in love with it, got off that first call. I was like, holy cow, like this is incredible. And yeah, so from there, it turned into one-on-one coaching, and I've been one-on-one coaching. And then just recently, it's been in my heart to start a group coaching. And I thought, really? Like, is this real? But as you've always told us too, like you start imperfect and you start scared because you won't ever start if you wait for the right time, and the stars will not line up for you to step out.
You're right.
And so I did. And so, yeah, I've just started the group coaching this past January and started my last round 3 weeks ago, my newest round. And it's incredible. I keep saying that, but it's been, I feel like I get so much out of it. I get
Yeah.
all these calls, and I know like these women, and I want to see them. The call was to help women that just felt, maybe stuck, or felt that like I missed something. Did I miss the train? Everybody got on this train and I missed it. I was like, I know how that feels. And I don't want you to go another day feeling like that. And I just felt like if I can just speak into them and help them out. And LMS, the background that you gave, the way you trained us, I feel like because it is based in scripture, and then it prepared us, having gone through and starting it myself, I did become a better coach once the training started. I was like, oh, I could see things and analyze it differently.
Yeah.
You guys gave specific techniques like, hey, look at this, check this out, and don't be afraid to look at it and see. I mean, it was just the way you guys approached it and had us look at how we were coaching. Yeah, that was good. What can we do? Like, what could I do the next time that, might take it to the next level? It was great.
What does your husband think now that you got your certification? You've been practicing. Is he just like in awe?
Yeah. Yeah. He'll tell me he doesn't listen, but he'll walk by the door or whatever. And he's like, the stuff you tell them, he goes, it's in what you're telling them. He goes, I hear, he goes, I don't see how it can't be transformative, and,
Mm.
and that's the thing. Even if it goes into all areas of our life. What you would learn in coaching isn't just like, okay, it only works if I'm coaching a client, because it helps transform us,
Yeah.
which affects everybody around us.
Yes.
Yeah. And it has been transformative for my journey as a wife, as a mom, and just if I can pass on a legacy to my kids, like, hey, you have this life and there's so many things you can do.
Yeah. That
And
brings me to a great question. Thank you so much for sharing that, Carrie. It's fun to see everybody's journeys. Sally, you were telling us before we came on about this amazing project that you're going to be working on, which is so cool. But I'm curious, and Carrie touched on this, aside from all the amazing things that it can bring us in that realm, like as projects or in our businesses or whatever, I'm curious for you, because people ask me this a lot, and we've been getting a lot of questions about this lately. If I'm not sure I want to build a business, is it still worth it to do it? Like, what are the other benefits that your coaches have seen if they're not sure, or if they want to do it, they don't want to do it right away? What do you think the benefits for you have been outside of the exciting stuff of doing coaching and fun projects with people?
I think, you can go along in LMS and pick and choose kind of things you want to do, and not want to do things you want to face and maybe not want to face. Whereas
Yes.
certification, you can't run from
You
the
can't
things.
skip.
Yeah, you can't run from those things. And so for me, it was, doing the things that I maybe avoided. And I was a rather avoidant person before LMS.
Okay.
And
And
so
so let me ask you this, because this is so great. Because if you look at the curriculum of LMS compared to the curriculum of coach certification, it's very similar. But so people always ask, well, I'm doing LMS. So, like, what's the big difference? What would you tell them?
there's accountability. There's people that you're in your cohort you're doing it together. You're going hand in hand. You're talking about some of those things.
Yeah.
If it's a really tough subject for you, you're walking through it with others. And
Yeah. And
yet,
I think, no, go ahead.
well, and there's it's such a safe space, even to be wrong or to get the answers, that to say, I don't know. People really push you but what if you did know? So there's just a different level of accountability, and a different level of buy-in.
Yes. Yeah. So you're more invested. And so you show up differently to something like that. I also think, and you guys can tell me what you think about this, but I think we take the curriculum that you might go through in a year in LMS, and we do it in 1 quarter, basically in 14 weeks. And so it's like, I'm trying to think of an analogy of what it's like, but I think it is that you have more buy-in and that you're not able to pick and choose what you want to really work on and study. You're kind of like, here's the curriculum and this, and it, but it's a lot faster pace. You're probably going through it 75% faster. And I think there's something about the concentration of that is very transformative. I know that when I first started Life Mentoring School, the first women that I took through the program, I took them through the entire curriculum in 8 weeks. And it was, it's very transformative. That's a lot to pack in 8 weeks. And I think for coach training, it's similar. It's a lot to pack in that amount of time. What did you think about that as far as you had been in LMS for almost a year, and then you went through this sort of intensive, way of going through the material?
By the time I got to start certification, I was so ready for it.
Okay.
That I was ready for it all.
You're like, give it to me. Give it all to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was ready. Was it a lot? Sure. And I feel like a lot of people go through a lot of things the minute they start certification, big things.
Yep.
Yeah.
And whether that's opposition or it's just life, you manage it all while you're going through it. And the beauty is that you're getting the tools, you're further getting into the tools that you need to handle life and whatever comes.
Yeah. And I often say this too, that when you're the sort of the leader or the teacher of something, you're going to have to walk through those things, right? And it always scares me when I'm like, hey, let's do a whole workshop on stress hormones and, or let's do a whole workshop on your emotional life, because what I know is that that's going to be required of me. Like, I think, especially if you're authentically doing it, you're authentically walking it out before you're, helping other people walk it out. And I think there's something about that is beautiful, because it builds so much resilience. You realize, just like what you said, that I do have the capability of handling this, and you just rise to the occasion. And a lot of times rising to the occasion means coming on a call and crying for 10 minutes because it feels hard and you're going through something or struggling. But what you said is beautiful, that it's such a safe, nurturing space to do that. I would love for whoever would like to kind of speak to a little bit more of that, the women that you've met, how that aspect of it, having these women in your corner, meeting really like-minded people who are on the same journey, what that has been like, either in your cohort or just maybe meeting people through the calls, or maybe in person at the live event.
Well, in speaking back into what you were saying, like, you guys have always said we go first. Like, as coaches, we go first, right?
Yeah.
And that too, like, is what the cohort was good for, like the accountability, like Sally was saying, that, just, and the encouragement, you get in there and it's intimidating, you get in there and you're like, okay, here I had already started coaching, but yet, okay, like, here I am, and I'm going to have these, like, I felt like these master coaches watching me coach, and you're just like, but you grow so much in that. And it was not, they were not putting intimidation out. I had to walk through that, and the support of that cohort, and just the connection we've had. One of the ladies I work with, that was in my cohort, Jessica Heffley, like, right now, I'm working, with her on some things. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It was a breakthrough for me I found out, like, how much I actually, like, a people person I am.
Yes.
And I don't know. So just like LMS, going in there and all the like-minded women, and you can go and you can be vulnerable, and it's okay, because it takes courage to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And what that's done for my coaching business. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to I'm going to show my vulnerability here too, because we're all in this, you know?
Yes. It's funny too to see, well, I mean, it's been such a joy for me to get to meet so many of our coaches. And then when they meet each other at the live event, especially after being in these small groups, how we do it in our program is the main teachings. You can do kind of, they're on demand. You can do them at your own time. But then you have this cohort of usually 10 to 12 people who meet every other week with a coach instructor. And those groups become usually very close. And then those groups often meet on the off weeks. We've noticed that in the last couple of rounds, those groups are meeting every week and practicing coaching. And yeah, I think too, being in a space where you're all learning something together, you start practicing from the very first cohort meeting. It doesn't feel like even, and I don't know, Misty, I don't know your experience with this, but I even find that when we have people that have a lot of experience in coaching, that everybody just comes to it with very much a learner student mindset. And it feels like everybody's kind of on the same page.
I totally felt that way too. Like we were all on the same page. It was like a family meetup and we're all here for each other. We all genuinely want to see each other get better. And yeah, I like there's a lot of other groups or places in the world where like you feel the tier system of like who like the status system, and I didn't feel that way in LMS at all. Like we were just all genuinely there to grow as a group, which was really special.
Yes. I think that is fostered too by our incredible coach instructors. We seriously have the most precious group of women that help with this coach instructing. Sally, could you speak to that a little bit? Like how you felt having the support of the coach instructors that you had?
I think what Misty said about there is no tier in
Mm-mm.
LMS. In encounter groups, in cohort, in certification, in you name it. And I think Edie, you model that for us from the top down. Is we're all just humans. We're
Yep.
all sinful humans that are just trying to get through this life in the
Yep.
best way that we can, you know. And
Yes.
so it's such a welcoming, safe environment. Sure, we come in with our insecurities,
Yes.
but those dissolve pretty quickly when you're
Yeah.
surrounded by loving people, like you said, Misty, people that want you to do well. They genuinely want the best for you.
And I think that I am very conscious of this. I've always been very conscious of this. Like when I go to a meeting somewhere, because I've been, I think, on the negative end of being in a place where it felt like there was a lot of hierarchy or there was a lot of, it felt cliquish or whatever. I love teaching people how to come into a room, like how this is how you think about it. This is how you create belonging for yourself and everyone else. And I think it's really powerful. It's been so powerful in my own life. And I kind of, have learned it the hard way, but it's something that we really do value in our program, that we want you to know how to come into the room and how to create belonging. We want you to know how much you are loved and adored. And I think that has helped. We have some training that we do on that before you actually start your certification. And we have had so many people tell us, like, thank you for that, because it's sort of, I think, sets everybody at ease. It helps us all come into the space with an open heart and an open mind, ready to learn, ready to cheer each other on. And I have never felt, and I've jumped into lots of different cohort meetings, and, I just have never felt that sense of like competition or, other people. I just have never felt that in our group. And I'm just so proud of you guys who actually flesh that out and embody that and carry that tradition. We do we do it on purpose and we try to set it up that way, but it's because you guys are so awesome and carry it out for each other. There's just such a sense of support and camaraderie is what I always sense when I'm around our coaches.
Yes. I
So,
agree.
so good. I'm curious for anybody who wants to speak to this, because we're approaching our next launch of certification. And I was telling you guys before we started this that we can tell them everything we can think of about the program, but they really just want to hear from you. They want to hear from coaches who've been through the program, what it was like for you. I'm curious for anybody who wants to speak to when you feel called to do something like this, but it feels like there are obstacles. Maybe it's a financial investment obstacle. Maybe it's what's everybody in my life going to think of me obstacle, or who am I to do this obstacle? If you had an obstacle that maybe almost kept you from doing it, what was it and how did you overcome that?
I think for me, one of my obstacles is like, oh, like I'm going to spend more money, right? Like I wasn't bringing in that much yet when I had decided to get certified. But one thing that I think serves me well, which hopefully I want to pass on to anyone who's listening, is deciding 100%. Decide 100% you're in, because the 99% of trying to decide and having one foot in, one foot out will hinder the results that you're going to get while you're learning and whatever you decide to do with the skills that you've learned. So when I decided I'm 100% in and I will make my money back, I did all of
Yes.
that. I did all
Yeah.
of that. And obviously tons more after that. But even if it's someone who's like, well, I'm not planning on making money off of this. And they're like, well, I shouldn't do it then. You still should. You just decide, and then your relationship with your husband will be better, or your relationship with your mother-in-law will be better, or you'll be a better grandma. Like you will get that back rewarded in a different way financially. But like if you don't decide 100%, you're kind of in, kind of out, you won't get that kind of a reward. So that's what I would offer to somebody who's on the fence,
Yes.
if it's financial.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. Yeah, I think we each get to decide, like, when we go into like any investment that we make, we get to decide for ourselves. It's like you're saying, Misty, am I all in or not? I think it can be tempting to go into something and be like, well, let me go into this and then I'll see if I think it was worth it. Well, what will happen if you do it with that sort of mindset is that you won't go all in for yourself. And yeah, I would say whether the decision is yes or no, to decide powerfully and trust yourself. Really
Yes.
trust yourself. Like if there's something in you that's like, not right now, trust that.
Mhm.
But then when it is a yes for you, trust that and go all in on yourself and make the most of your investment. Invest not just your money, but invest yourself in the people in the program. I noticed that the people who make the biggest investments in other people, even to the coach instructors, like the people that are all in like that, it's really powerful to watch. And then, of course, who reaps the most benefit from that? The person doing it.
Right.
Because when you're all in, there's just some incredible release of your power when you're not continually trying to make the decision. Did I make the right decision? Oh my gosh, am I? I love that advice, Misty.
It's like an investment in yourself. I mean, you can look at it like, oh, the investment of money, but what it really boils down to is the investment in yourself. And that's what I noticed, because I was like Misty. I was like, oh, like, okay, if the money was the issue or whatever, but I knew the investment in myself was needed. It almost was
Yeah.
like, do I believe in myself this much
Yes.
to do this? Is this something that I want to that I want to put my feet into and
Yeah.
just be completely immersed in it? And if I had walked away and never coached, it still would have been worth all of it, because it's like I proved something to myself. And then that right there, I think that spoke for me personally, because what I've always struggled with was self-doubt. I always grew up doubting myself. And I think God allowed LMS, God allowed all your wisdom and all the coaches' wisdom. Y'all were the vessels to pour into me, like, okay, we're going to start extinguishing this self-doubt. And it's going to be a process you're going to work through, but you're going to know how, because you're willing to say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And
Yeah. And
was, that was a huge win.
yes. And I love thinking about the downstream effect of your powerful yes.
Yeah.
And I think of the first time that I invested in coach training, and I had this 401k that I had from when I was practicing medicine. And I just decided to cash it out and pay for my coaching. And it's funny because there was something about that to me that it felt so like countercultural. Like nobody would advise you to do that. Like, no, this is your investment. This could become whatever, who knows what it would have become eventually. But what I have realized since that was probably 10 years ago. And what I've realized since then is, oh my gosh, how that has paid off in dividends financially for sure. But even if it weren't that, in spades, in my relationships, in my health, like I think of what if I hadn't gotten healthy again? Like all the things that, like, as you know, when you start in this sort of personal development space, it feels like a snowball that starts going in the right direction. And pretty soon you're getting healthier and your relationships are better and you're trying things and you're confident in yourself to do things that you weren't before, and just has this sort of effect on so many parts of your life. And I think to myself, if I had taken the advice of literally any financial counselor back then, they would have been like, that's so dumb to take your investment. But, my husband and I do that all the time. We'll end the year with some extra money and go, should we put it in our 401k or should we take all our kids and go skiing somewhere? And so often we will choose connection with our people over what most people would think would be like, a wise decision to make with your money. And it's not that we don't have those things, because we do, but we know that's not what really matters. And I think when you make an investment in something that really matters, it feels so good to do it, and it pays back dividends. Sally, you've been nodding right along. Did you have anything you want to say on that?
I definitely related to what Carrie said. I think for me, it was a scary thing is, am I worth that much money? Am I worth investing that much money? Was kind of a thing I had to work through.
Yeah.
And then immediately after certification, I put a tremendous amount of pressure on myself you got to make that back. This little baby business, this little infant business now has to make, and that didn't serve me well. It didn't serve me well. And if we're really honest, when I quit putting that pressure on myself, guess what happened? The money started coming in. And so it became self-worth issues and money issues. When it came time to look through the lessons, the money issues immediately, those were the ones I'd been avoiding. And I mean, clearly, when I look at those two things, I think, but I would have never faced those had I not done certification, had I not spent the money, had I not been forced to just like,
And you're so right. I think, and maybe we'll finish with this, because I think this is also something people are really curious about, is getting clients. And if you are somebody who wants to build a business, well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to find clients? And one of the things that we talk about in business mentoring school, which again, you get when you join our certification program, is that, you now have this, like as Sally called, you have this business that you want to grow. And a lot of us in the beginning will put a lot of pressure on that business to take care of us, instead of being willing to take care of it for a while, invest in it, nurture it. And working from pressure usually never works, but it feels necessary. It feels like, okay, now I'm going to put a bunch of pressure, on this to pay back my investment, or to, do whatever you're wanting to do with the money. I'm curious for you guys how you navigated that in the beginning, and maybe ongoing, how you get clients, how you think about your business, how you, especially maybe you, Carrie, we could start with you because you had a full-time income before. So did you feel that pressure right away? Like, oh, I got to replace my income and I've got to.
Yes. Oh yes. It was all to myself. I did that to myself. It's like I worked so hard, and I got to that point and I'm like, okay, now I got to see the results, like right now, and And speaking into that, like that's when the certified coaches calls and the business mentoring school, like you guys aren't like, all right, you're certified. Good luck. Like y'all don't leave us high and dry. You're like, all right, come to this, bring
Yeah.
it all. Because and what I've learned through the certified coaches call, if anything's going to bring anything to the surface, it's starting your own business, doing this. Oh
Yes.
my goodness, you're like, I'm good to go. And then you start your business and all these things start rising to the
It
surface.
starts coming back. Yeah.
Yes. And
That
so
fear of rejection, that
fear of rejection.
insecurity, the
Yeah.
approval that we want of everyone else, it comes
Right.
roaring back. Yeah.
And yeah, and like what you had said, like, how do you explain it? A lot of people are like, so you're a life coach, and you're like, yeah, and just trying to like introduce yourself to the world, like now I'm doing this, and if you just give it a chance, it's going to work, I promise. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's going from a full-time salary, like teaching's very sturdy, very like a huge paycheck, all the things, to like the uncertainty. Um,
Yes.
right there in that gap, so much transformation. And that's LMS still provided like the foundation, like, okay, but like, it's okay. You're going to be walking through this. You guys have never been like, it's going to be sunshine and rainbows and daisies. And, you're like, it's going to bring up things and we're going to come together and we're going to talk about it. And that the continuing support and the growth, that is the
Yeah.
growth. That gap of like all the uncertainty, that's the growth. And y'all just
Yeah.
walked alongside us every bit of the way and still do. I still go to the
Yeah.
coaching calls and still learn so much.
And I think too that for me, there's been almost nothing that has brought up things in myself that needed shoring up, that needed growth, like building a business. Really, hardly anything has challenged me like that. But also, if you look at life, life is going to be hard. So I want to make myself resilient. So what can I do to make myself resilient mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? How can I be ready so that when the challenges come, I'm ready? I can't think of anything that's better training for that than putting yourself out there and building a business and getting rejected and having people, sometimes not understand. It has just been a challenging, beautiful journey. And as I watch you guys do it alongside me, I mean, I'm still here doing it, still learning, still challenging myself. I just am so proud of you and that you were willing to put yourself out there in order to be able to help the people that you can help. It is a lot different than, say, just, you get a job somewhere, you know what you're supposed to do, you know when you're going to get paid. This is way different than that. But with that comes, again, the possibility of amazing growth, but also I think the beautiful freedom that you can have in your lifestyle, in your schedule, in your finances eventually. So I think there's a lot of payoff, but you do have to be willing to kind of pay your dues and go through the hard part. And I don't ever want to sugarcoat that because people think because they have watched me build my coaching business, they think, oh, well, it happened for you so fast and you were able to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't see the 10 years before that I was online building relationships and building trust with people. Like mine has not been an overnight success. I'm 15 years, into the journey. And so it's certainly not an overnight thing. I think it's something that you have to love and you have to be willing to, put in the time for. I'm curious with you, Misty, as far as that goes, like getting clients, what encouragement or maybe just frank discussion do you have for people considering this about just the logistics of getting clients?
That's funny because you're like, or just blunt, very
Or
direct,
just
like
or just say
just
like, man, it's
just
hard.
say it. You know what? I agree with you when you were saying this job and this career and this calling, you can have so much freedom, but you're going to have to put in the work. And I think that's so true. And I remember when I first started switching over from my previous career to this one, being like, okay, this feels hard. Like, why, like, where is everybody? Like, why are they coming? Right. And I remember sitting in my basement, staring at a basket, being like, how long am I willing to commit and not look back? until I decide I'm not doing this. And I decided at the time, I'm doing this for 18 months. I'm not looking back. I'm doing whatever it takes. And so in that moment, I decided 18 months. Of course, like it did not take 18 months, but I just didn't want the back and forth of like, should I do this? This is hard. Like I didn't want all that mind drama. And so like
Yeah.
once I decided I'm doing this no matter what, I did it no matter what. And so that's the first thing. And the second thing is I think, like how do I get clients? How do I get clients? Everyone's always asking that, right? Like how do people get clients? And I think the number one thing that still gets me clients now all the way in is being genuinely interested in people and connecting them with no like internal goal for me in mind.
Yes,
So if
yes,
I see
yes.
someone struggling at church or like a friend or whatever, I'm not thinking, oh, they should be my next client. I'm like, you know what? I have an open hour on my calendar in 2 days. Do you want it? Like, I can help you through this. And I will coach them. I will help them. I'll send them on their way. And that person will say, you know what? What you did really helped me. And my mom is going through something, blah, blah, blah. And then I will talk to them and I get clients eventually, whether it's them or it's two people down from them that know them. But it's just connecting with people, genuinely caring.
Mm-hmm.
That is the key. And that isn't fast.
It's
For
not
most
fast.
of us.
It's about building relationships first, which will
Yep.
build your business second. And you can't
Yes.
bypass connecting.
You can't bypass that. And I think you also, it's exactly what you're saying, Misty. I think this is probably the point that I think most people struggle with is you really, really want clients. And if you don't do your internal work first, you come to them needy. They can feel that you're just wanting them to be your client. They can feel that sort of neediness instead of deciding like, no, I'm committed to building my business and I want to build genuine relationships. I want to be someone that people go, oh, she is so awesome. She can help you. And that's exactly, it sounds like what you're doing. And that takes some time. And I think one of the reasons that I built my business fast is because I spent 10 years doing that before I had anything to sell. So I was just building relationships and showing up for people and putting out content that was valuable. But I think mainly it's really in genuinely building relationships, knowing that when you put value out and you pour into people, it will come back to you somehow and you don't have to know how. And just really trusting in that and showing up, not expecting something transactional, really just pouring into people, I think is so, so good. Yep. Do you have anything to add there, Miss Sally?
Show up before you're comfortable doing it. Keep showing up until you get comfortable doing it, and show up regularly.
Yes.
And just tell anybody and everybody, I'm a life coach and I can help.
And I can help you. Yes. And you guys, sounds so simple. I think it's one of the hardest things that we help our coaches eventually do. Like you have to be willing to say that. You have to be willing for people to misunderstand what that means. You have to be willing for people to go, what? She's what? You have to be like saying that requires courage. Mm-hmm. You know, just being able to say like, I'm a life coach and I can help you. It's so interesting because in my own journey, I had somebody the other day here at my house doing something at the house. And he's like, what do you do again? And I'm like, oh, I'm a life coach. And you can just feel the like, what?
Oh, yeah.
What do you do? What does that mean? And I was just like, not trying to over explain it or oversell it. Like, I'm just okay saying like, yeah, I work from home. I'm a life coach. I help women rewrite their stories, or I help women get unstuck, or, whatever I feel like saying at the time. And I think when we're okay with that, everybody else is okay with that. And we can help you get okay with that. It takes some time and you really have to practice it and you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. I think a lot of this is really like doing anything hard. It's really being willing to step out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Which I appreciate all of you doing and being on the podcast today. I'm sure you stepped out of your comfort zone a little bit, but I would love for you to tell anyone listening where they can find you, who you help, maybe the name of your group, or how they can find you if they want to hire you or learn more about what you do. We'll start with Sally. How can
Okay.
our people find you, Miss Sally?
I am Sally F. Phillips on Instagram. I help women. I love to read, and I'm always doing a book club. So if that's your thing, we do that together too. But I love all women, whether they're mothers or
Mhm.
have problems with their mother, or whether they are teachers or trying to get themselves healthy. All of it. Just I love
Yeah.
when people say, I get a little when people say I'm trying to be the best me. I love, and I think I got it from you, Edie. I want you to be your favorite you. And so if I
Mhm.
can help you be your favorite you, I'm
I
here for it.
love that.
Yeah.
So, so good. Thank you, Sally. Carrie, where can our friends on the podcast find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Carrie Irvin Life Coach, Facebook, Carrie Irvin. And so I have one-on-one coaching for women as well as group coaching. My group coaching is called Unleashed, because I want women to unleash their God-given gifts. I want them to be
Mhm.
able to see themselves as God sees them. And so for me, like when my thing is those women that are just ready to step out into courage and do whatever it is that might lead to. And so that is, I've worked with women in college, like they're about to graduate college, 22 years old, women who
Yeah.
are retired, everything in between. And so yeah, you can find me on there. And I'm also about to embark on becoming a motivational speaker. So that's something too. So
That's exciting.
yeah. So it's
I love that, Carrie.
thank you.
Thanks for sharing. And Misty, how can our friends find you?
So you can find me on Facebook at Misty Divine Rauscher. That's Divine Rauscher, Rauscher. It's kind of hard to spell. Or on Instagram at Misty Life Coach. And then if you go into like the little link tree, there's a place where you can subscribe to my newsletter, which I send that out about once a week, and it's chock full of good stuff.
Oh, I
And
love that.
and I help men and women. I find that I help just as much men as women. I'm a general life coach, so I get to help everybody with everything, strengthen their relationships, accelerate their growth. But I do have a special emphasis in trauma recovery. And I find that I draw to me people who have maybe tried counseling for a few years and they just feel like they're still stuck and kind of like they're sick of hearing their own trauma story. They're like, they're sleeping through it and but their life isn't getting better. And so I'm
Yeah.
able to dismantle their thoughts around their trauma to get rid of it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so very much. And if you are interested in applying this round for our certification or just want to get on our wait list and hear more about our program, you can go to ediewadsworthcoaching.com and there will be a little tab at the top. So just click on that certification tab, join our wait list. We have an upcoming webinar on April 12th called The Life-Changing Magic of Becoming a Coach. That's going to be at noon. So when you get on our wait list, you'll get the link to join us for that special training, and it'll tell you all about our program. This next round of certification begins in August and goes through November of 2024, but we will be enrolling for that starting April 12th. So thank you again, ladies, so much for being on the podcast. We are so honored to call you one of our coaches and so thankful to get to know you more today. So many thanks.